How's it going, everybody? And welcome back to the Airbnb Data Guys channel. Today, we are going to be doing something a little bit different that I haven't really done before. If you know me well, you know that I hyper focus on single family homes and trying to figure out how to maximize the experience for those single family homes when it comes to Airbnbs, right? However, I've always had an interest in boutique resorts. I find them fascinating. I find them super interesting. I think it's a new asset class that is going to be coming out across all of America and North America for that case over the next little while. And so today on this video, what we're going to do is we're actually going to take a look at a resort that my friend has purchased, and he wants to revamp it and make it more modern and more sexy, let's say, and more appealing and pull people into it, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to review that resort and pick apart all of the things that I think can be improved. And I'm going to try and use as many examples as I possibly can to show you exactly what I'm seeing in my head, because I've stared at thousands upon thousands of Airbnbs, and so I can see it clearly in my head, and I want to make sure you can see it clearly in your head. Now, what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to first show you the entire resort, and then I'm going to show you the other resorts that I'm getting my inspiration from, and then from there, we're going to break down the cabin. There's 5 cabins, but I'm going to break down one specifically, and then we're going to use that logic to apply to all of the cabins. And then lastly, we'll get into the most fun and most exciting piece of it all, which is the community amenities. To me, are the most fascinating and most intriguing and the best way to really pull people in. And so I want to explore that one in the most depth. All right, so let's get into it. Let's take a look at the resort. This resort is currently called Neptune's Hideaway. All right, it is located in Tobermory. For those of you who don't know, is located in Canada, not too far away from where I actually grew up. And it's really, really well known for its crystal blue water. It gets crystal blue because of the minerals in the rock that are around here, and it's super rare up in Canada. However, there's also additional attractions like the boat that's sunken. There's tons of hiking. There's a lot of cabins, a really, really beautiful place to be. And all the people that come to this area are from the Toronto area, even London, and even Windsor, where I grew up right down over here. All will travel up and go and stay in the cabins and go camping up in this general area in Tobermory. Neptune's Hideaway is located right here in that general area. As you can see, Tobermory is right there. And this is a nice little resort that's located right along the water. Now, this website doesn't do a great job of explaining the entire resort, so I'm going to break it down in a couple of different ways. So this resort actually sits on a really large piece of land. As you can see here, you have cabin 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's another one right over here. Additionally, this person actually owns all the land to the right over here, which they can build on. But what I love about this is all of this open common space that's right here that can be used along the waterfront to create a really great experience and really pull people in and give them what they want, which is water during the summer months, right? Here is just a better shot to be able to show you those cabins. You have the Huron, the Cypress, the Cameron, and the Superior, and then there's the big blue one right back here. Now, here are the blueprints of what they plan on doing with this resort. I'll break it down for you so it's easier to understand. You have the waterfront right up over here, okay? Which means you have your original cabins right here. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you have that big blue one right over there. So you have those original 5. However, they want to put in an additional 16 right here, which would be able to fill up this entire space, and then everybody would get to use this common area. And the common area is where we're really going to break it down and really going to get into it, but this is going to be the moneymaker right there. And here's a closer look at those 4 cabins that they already have up and running. You can see they are all very common to one another. There's nothing really that exciting about them. They each have a different color on the door to be able to identify which cabin is which I'm not a fan of whatsoever, but there's a ton of things that are not great about this, and we are going to get into the nitty-gritty detail of all of it. But first, before we do, I want to paint a picture of what this resort could look like by showing you some of the other resorts that I find so fascinating. The first resort that I want to show you where I'm getting a lot of my ideas from is Onera. Now, Onera was created by Ben Wolf. It started out in Fredericksburg, Texas, and it now has a way bigger resort out in Wimberley. The way that it has been put together is so perfectly done that I want to use it as the inspiration for this video. Now, the first thing I want to show you is Onera has these very unique listings and the way that they are put together, and they are not comparable whatsoever to the listings in the cabins that we are looking at, which once again look like this, right? So why would I use Onera as an example? Well, Onera has one thing that they have done extremely well that a lot of other resorts have not done. And what they have done is they have created this community amenity area. And the community amenity area, as you can see here from this photo, It is a place where everybody can kind of come together and enjoy these specific amenities that you can't get with your individual listing, but therefore you don't have to pay an arm and a leg to stay in your nice little cabin. You can then come and stay at the community amenities and still enjoy the pool, the hot tub, the sauna, the swings, the fire pits, and everything else that comes along with those community amenities. It's helping drive the revenue significantly. Now, this is one example. The other example I want to give is Live Oak Lake. Live Oak Lake is another beautiful resort that's been put together by Isaac. I apologize, Isaac, I do not know your last name, but it's built by Isaac out in Waco, Texas, and it's also extremely well done. But I want to hyper focus in on the community amenities because once again, the buildings we cannot compare to. These buildings here, these Alpine A-frames, are not comparable to the cabins that we're working with, which once again look like this, right? And so the community amenity that they have put together here, which is a mod pool with a see-through window here, some layout chairs, they have some swings, they also have community fire pit area and a barbecue. They also have a waterfront area with canoes that you can rent out. All of these community amenities are really helping drive up the revenue for these specific communities. However, like I stated before we can get into all of those community amenities, we first need to go through each one of these individual cabins and really break them down one by one. Now that you have seen Neptune's Hideaway and you have seen what it currently looks like, and you have also seen what my inspiration is going to be coming from, I now want to break down the individual listing, and then we are going to get into the community amenity resort area. And when I break down this individual cabin, I'm going to show you a ton of additional examples as well to really help you see exactly what I'm seeing. Now, the very first one I'm going to break down here is Cypress Cottage. And what I'm going to actually start off with is the outside of this cabin. I've been looking at these cabins and just thinking about the fact that they are very dated and truthfully just ugly, right? They are just not good looking cabins. And trying to think, what do we do here? And I have a friend that I have been helping buy Airbnbs for like 3 years now, and he absolutely crushes it. And a joke that we always tell each other is that when you find a really ugly cabin, all you got to do is paint it black and add a hot tub. And so honestly, that's what I think needs to happen here. Here is an example of a cabin that has been painted black and they added a hot tub. Now, they did a ton of other things. I'm definitely going to use this as an example, but this has been a very common trend within the cabin community and the Airbnb community to give it this modern feel and make people feel more desired towards it, right? You can either go one of two ways. You can either go with the modern look or you can go really deep into a cabin feel. But if you have a listing that is not pretty and doesn't feel like a cabin whatsoever, painting it black will make it feel modern and really bring it into the nowadays style. So step number one, paint it black. Now, the next thing I want to break down here is the living room, and we do not have a lot of space to work with. And so we have to be very strategic with the way we do things inside. Additionally, I don't think it's going to drive a ton of additional revenue what the interior looks like. We just want it to feel cozy and more modern because this home is going to be competing with so many other waterfront luxury listings within the area. And by having the interior feeling dated, it's not going to help drive additional revenue for this place. And the whole listing needs to come together with a really nice aesthetic if we want to create an experience for people to help drive more revenue. Now, I'm actually going to use this exact same cabin, the one that we said we want to paint it black, one more time for the interior, because I think this is one of the best interiors that I've ever seen put together. And I want to start off by proving that with data, because this cabin is making $97,000 a year. It's a 3-bedroom in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, and it's a lot smaller than all of its competitors. However, it's almost a top performer in its market. To just prove this a little further, this home here is making slightly more than the other one, and it is significantly larger in comparison to the property that we are looking at. As you can see here, this is the entire common space area for this listing, making about $97,000 a year. Whereas this one is much larger, way higher ceilings, and this one is making about $1,000 more. And on top of that, this one has an entire basement, whereas it has even more space and more amenities. So why do I believe that this one that has a significantly smaller space is able to drive the same amount of revenue? And honestly, it's through design and the way they laid this out, on top of giving it a theme, because the theme creates an experience and then they get their experience premium. people will pay more for a little bit more of an experience. So to just break down this photo alone, some of the things that I'm seeing here is they've added in this like 1950s jukebox. They have the lights fit really well with the lights over here. It has that modern feel to it. The couch is really popping with the color. And as you can see from another area, they painted the brick black. They added in all this additional little cocktail setup over here. They added in neon lights. They did a lot of little aesthetic things that make it so much more appealing to be at this Airbnb in comparison to all the other ones. And I think this dining area actually does a great job of highlighting that, because they brought in this 1950s sort of dining table, and it really brings that experience further, along with the fridge that they used to amplify it even further. And so therefore, this listing took a very small space, gave it a theme, created an experience, and made an experience premium. Now, to bring it back to the listing that we are reviewing, do I think this listing should do as much as that one? No, I really don't. And the reason being is because they're going to have the community amenities which will help pull people in. So all we really want to do here is just make it feel more modern, bring it more to life, so that people actually want to stay here and it doesn't feel so dated. And I just want you to see the other angle here. They have a futon in here. Even though they have 2 bedrooms, this place only sleeps 4. There's a futon in the living room for some reason, and then a dining table that's kind of oversized and doesn't really fit well in here. So my suggestion for this area is that they should get a couch that comes this way and has a little bit of an L shape to it. It doesn't need to be very large, but as long as someone can lay out over here and someone can sit right here, they can more comfortably watch the TV. And I would remove these 2 chairs, and I would add in a arcade game, because it's going to hit the family demographic better. And then additionally, I would also add in a coffee and microwave station right here. The reason being is because this cabin has extremely limited space to actually cook, as you can see from the microwave and the coffee machine. So if you can take both of these and move them to a different area, this opens up the space for people to actually cook. Lastly, I'd get a square table where 2 chairs could sit right up against the wall. You could push the table right into the wall. I would make it black, I would make it modern, and I would make it fit the vibe and the feel for this area so much better. Now, everything I just mentioned were the bigger things: the table, the couch, some additional space over here. All of these things are the larger items. To really bring this to life, you need to have the smaller aspects, the little touches, and those things are outside of my scope, and I cannot advise on them. But I just want to show this one more time. This home has all these little aesthetics to it that really bring the theme out, and the design and the style and the modernness. And so you would have to add in all these little aspects to really bring this listing in this living room to life. And I really do think you can do that, because you have this beautiful peaked ceiling and the nice wood walls, and you could really just make it a cozier space by doing those little touches. Now, everything that I just explained there can apply to all of the other cabins in this area. Each cabin's going to be a little bit different, but if you take the logic that I just explained and work with a designer to reconfigure each one of these living rooms to meet the logic that I just explained, and bring it to life with that experience and make it more modern, it will all come to life so much better. Now, I want to touch on the bedrooms. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but I want to touch on the bedrooms. And the reason being is because you want it to feel cozy, you want it to feel comfortable, but bedrooms do not drive revenue. They just need to feel clean, right? With that being said, I want to take a quick look at this bedroom. Then I'm going to show you the other comparable bedroom that I think we could replicate. And then we can use these ideas to bring this bedroom to life and apply it to every single last bedroom within the community. So the same logic is going to apply, that we want to bring in some sort of theme, some sort of design to really make it feel more modern and bring in the experience premium that we want to be able to give from this listing. The current bedroom has a really small picture frame. That's not doing anything. The picture frame is actually where you get the theme and the design. Whatever is above the bed is really what tells you what the theme is of this listing. Additionally, what you have on top of the bed and also the dressers, those things really tell you the story of the bedroom. Now, I want to use this example from Onera, one of their very small container homes that they have, which is pretty much just a bedroom. And I want to show you the little things that they did that I think really help bring the design to life. The simple throw pillow and the throw blanket are honestly enough to give it a feel, give it a design, and bring it to life. However, this additional photo over here, the little bench up front, the little accent piece that they added right here, all of that really brings it to life, especially even the carpet underneath. All of those additional little touches really bring it to life and give it the theme and make it feel cozy and clean and comfortable. And so simply what we could do here in this bedroom is change out the side tables and add in something a little bit more modern. Add something that goes above the bed that's going to really tell us what the theme and the design and the feel of this bedroom is going to be, and make it bigger. Then you throw a throw blanket over top, a throw pillow on top. Get rid of the dresser because you do not need the dresser. They're only there for a couple of days. Give them a stand for their suitcase, if anything. And this whole room automatically goes from not something that is not very desirable to something that is clean, comfortable, and cozy. Take this logic, apply it across every single last bedroom, and you are good to go. Now, to get to the area that's really going to be the moneymaker, and where I'm going to show a lot of examples here, it's going to be the outside. We already want to paint it black, but what about everything else that we could do to each individual listing to amplify them tenfold? Before I go into the examples, I just want to walk through what we currently have so you can see what we're working with. In this first image alone, you can see we have a barbecue space set up right over here. We have a nice big front patio, and then there's also a bunch of additional yard space around this listing. There's a better shot of the front porch. You can see over here, there's a picnic table, and then there's a path that leads over to a fire pit. Here's a better photo of that fire pit. So what I actually want to start off with is just the fire pit, okay? And then we'll go into the other areas. There's a lot of different ways that you can go with this, and I want to start off by showing Onera, because it doesn't actually apply to this specific area. So Onera, this is their setup for their 2 people staying within one of their container homes. They just have these really nice modern chairs with a chimney fire pit. This is great for the Fredericksburg area, but it does not work for where we are going. And the reason being is because these people that are going to be staying here want the real fire. They really want to throw logs into there. There's going to be more than just 2 people around this fire pit, and therefore we have to do something different than what Onera is doing. This is the first example that I want to show you, and I think that this alone could be enough to really amplify this listing's fire pit and bring it to life. What this listing has done here is they added in the Adirondack chairs all the way around the fire pit, giving the fire pit more of a true structure and a standing, but really it's the hanging lights above the actual fire pit, and the way this photo is taken at night where the sky could be edited so you can really see the sunset in the sky, but then the lights really shine bright. This here is all that's needed to take the fire pit that looks like this and truly bring it to life. Now, I just want to show a couple of other examples. This one here, I think it's really good as well, but it doesn't apply as well to the listing that we are currently looking at for 2 reasons. One, this fire pit is a propane fire pit, and the people that are going to be staying at this cottage want the real thing, right? They want the real deal. Additionally, this one actually doesn't have any hanging lights above it, whereas the one that's here, it's surrounded by trees and can very easily put up lights all within the trees and around the trees and above the fire, and really create this beautiful space for at night when people are enjoying the fire pit, because the fire pit's going to be the most important amenity for this place for the evening. And so lastly, I want to show one more here, which really takes it to an extra level, where you have a pathway that walks up. It's nicely graded all the way around so that you can actually have a secluded space specifically for that amenity. You have a really nice fire pit set up. You have the nice chairs, you have posts all the way around, and you have lights all the way around that as well. This is just another way of really bringing it to life. Do I think that this listing needs to go that in depth? No, I really just think that they need to have 4 chairs that are surrounding this fire pit, because the cottage only sleeps 4 people. They need to add hanging lights that go above from tree to tree. And then they need to take a drone shot to really show off this listing from the top to really bring it to life. And if they can just accomplish that alone, they are going to drive more revenue from this listing, because the fire pit space is amplified and people are going to desire it so much more than any other cottage within that general area. Now, this deck space, I truly believe, is wasted with the way that it is currently put together. And the reason being is because the inside of this cabin, as we have already seen, is tiny, right? However, the front porch is huge, and people are mainly renting this property out during the summer. And so if you can create a space where people can actually enjoy that front porch and use it as an extension of the home, it automatically makes this entire cabin feel bigger. And so my suggestion for this cabin is to actually add in a dining table out front with an umbrella above it that people can use to eat at, so they don't have to eat inside. Now, I want to use this one as an example so I can paint a better picture of exactly what I'm trying to say here. you can see this dining table that they have out front. They also added hanging lights. But what I'm trying to get at is that you can add in a dining table like this that would have an umbrella that has this sort of modern feel to it. And obviously you would only need a 4-seater for this specific cabin, but it would give these people so much more space to use within their cabin and just allow them to enjoy this patio. And of course, you can add in the giant Jenga on top to show them that you've given them additional amenities. You could add in the giant Connect 4 if you really wanted to as well. Now, lastly, I would still add in a bit of a patio set, something like this, where people can sit down, maybe just have a conversation, maybe have their morning coffee, whatever it may be, and have it looking out at what that front porch looks at. And this is one thing that I've actually been holding off on because I still can't believe that this doesn't exist within this listing, but I want to show you how important this is. As you can see here, each one of these cabins has a front porch that's right out here looking at the water. However, if you were to go through these current listings, it is really, really difficult to find a photo that shows an angle from somebody sitting here looking out and actually seeing this view. This image here is essentially what this view would be. However, they don't have a good shot showing it from this front porch. And so from this front porch, if you add in a nice little 4-seater table with an umbrella above it and some additional seating for a morning coffee, and then you add in the hanging lights above here and maybe even along this rail right here, all of a sudden this entire listing comes to life tenfold in comparison to the way that it currently looks. Now, to wrap this all up when it comes to the outside, there's only a couple of things that actually need to be done. To simplify this, you just need to paint the entire cabin black if you can. Then you want to add some dining table seating up here and some little bit of seating for coffee in the morning, and add hanging lights along there and along the railing. And then make sure you get photos that show off the view from that front porch. Then lastly, what you want to do is create a better fire pit experience and look and feel for the people who are going to be staying at this specific cabin. And if you can do all of these things, it is going to amplify the experience for that individual cabin tenfold. The only thing I didn't mention was the barbecue. And the main suggestion I would have for the barbecue is just creating some sort of walkway or path that leads over to the barbecue. It makes it feel like it's all cohesive and put together for that specific listing. With all that being said, everything I showed you would have been a very cost-effective improvement. However, I want to show you one example of a listing and what they have done to create a secluded and amplified experience for an individual cabin or listing. Now, what you are currently looking at is a listing that is obviously a dome, and ignore the dome. I don't want to look at that. Yes, that's nice and unique, but what about everything else? And what you can see here is that they created this really large deck that actually has a fence that goes all the way around it, which gives you a ton of privacy if you're staying at this dome. Now, additionally, they've also added in a nice, really bougie fire pit setup over here with a pergola that goes above it, so you can actually sit out there if it's going to be raining or anything along those lines. But they also have a hot tub that's built into the deck, an additional outdoor eating space, a barbecue. They have done a ton with this listing to truly amplify the value that they are providing to these guests that are going to be staying here. And if the owner of this cabin really wanted to take it to another level, they without a doubt could add in the hot tub, add in a massive deck that was secluded that gave a lot of privacy, maybe even added some sort of privacy fence that led out to the actual fire pit area, and created a more romantic and beautiful place for people to stay. And if they were focused on couples and people who are renting this place out specifically for anniversaries, that would be the suggestion I would have made. However, this place is going to be focused in on families, and it's also going to be a big community resort, and I don't think that it makes logical sense to spend that amount of money because they're not going to get the return that they would want if they did that for each of these individual cabins. And now, finally, onto the community amenity area, the part that gets me without a doubt the most excited, probably because of the amount of additional revenue that you can make by having this community amenity space. However, it costs a lot of freaking money to make that happen. And so you really got to make sure it makes sense for the resort that you have to actually do this, and do not take any of this wholeheartedly because, again, guys, this is not my greatest area of expertise. I am just trying my absolute best to figure this out and use the knowledge that I have from all those other 180 plus Airbnbs that I've helped find and figure out how can we apply it to this specific area. And of course, I'm obsessed with these little resorts that could be beautiful, and I want to open one myself, so I'm trying my best to learn as much as I possibly can. But this entire area right here, to me, is totally the opportunity zone. this is the area where we're going to drive the most amount of revenue. And honestly, it really doesn't make sense to go as all out as I'm about to explain unless they decide to do the entire additional 16 units within this area, because you really need all of the revenue from all of these listings to make this expense worth it. Now, as you can see on the blueprints here, they want to create a community area, and all they have listed out is a hot tub, a fire pit, a cold plunge, and a container pool. So what I want to do here is I want to try and find examples to really bring this to life, right? What will it look like once it's built, and why should it look that way? Now, before I go revisit the examples of Onera and Live Oak Lake and what they did with their community amenities and why I believe it's helping them drive more additional revenue, I actually just want to tell you a little bit of a story that I have about my experience with this type of resort when I went to Bali. There are 3 little islands off the main island of Bali. They're called the Gili Islands. And these Gili Islands, there's no cars allowed. It's just horses and scooters and bikes, and that's it. And when I went there, I stayed at this one place called Lumi. Lumi had these absolutely beautiful little 1-bedrooms that you could stay in that really made me feel like I was having this tropical experience, which is exactly what I wanted, which is why I traveled to the other side of the world, flew for almost 20 hours just to be able to get to Bali, to then get onto a boat to go all the way across over to this island where there was no vehicles allowed, because I really, really wanted to feel like I was in a tropical experience. And so then therefore, the place I wanted to stay at, I wanted to also amplify that experience. And as you can see from these places that we stayed at within Lumi's resort, they gave that feeling. However, there was one thing that I was extremely concerned about when we were booking this out, which was that we were going to be staying at this one little place, but yet we were going to have to share the pool, the hot tub, and all of the other amenities that were going to come along with the space. And to me, I really wanted the privacy, I wanted the seclusion and all of that. However, you just couldn't really get that within the little island that we were staying in. And so then therefore we stayed at this Lumi resort. And as you can see, this Lumi resort has an absolutely beautiful pool that looks out to the water. And if you just walk across the street, you can get right to the beach if you wanted to. But you have all these day beds you can hang out on right in front of the pool. There was also a bar right next to the pool, and they served you drinks, they served you foods as you laid out on this bed. And honestly, even though we were sharing that amenity with everybody, it didn't matter at all. I could care less about everyone else that was around me. I was in my own world, I was enjoying my own experience, and it was just such a great time and extraordinarily relaxing. And it was at that moment that I had realized that this idea of a resort where you have these beautiful, super unique 1-bedrooms that people get to stay at night, but then they get to use these community amenities during the day and get to enjoy the pool on a really hot day, or hop into the sauna or the hot tub, whatever it might be. It doesn't matter that you're sharing those things. It's just nice that you have them along with your private, unique, great looking cabin or whatever it may be that you're staying in. And to really put a bow on this and just absolutely prove that what I'm saying makes logical sense and drives revenue, you have the Live Oak Lake out in Waco, Texas, which, first off, the buildings themselves are beautiful without a doubt, but they also have the community amenities, and they are making a ridiculous amount of money for a 1-bedroom out in this area, right? And what solidified it for me when I was doing my research on Live Oak Lake was when I came across another resort that didn't have community amenities, but had these really nice container homes that were also 1-bedrooms. And there were a ton of them. They were all over the place within this general area. And yet they were making significantly less per listing, like 5 times less per listing, which absolutely blew my mind when I realized it. And I tried to understand, like, what are the differences between these 2 listings that are allowing one to make significantly more than the other. And this one here, which is just a container home with some wood siding on it and a little bit of rooftop patio, up here they did absolutely nothing for this. And then on the outside, there's no privacy. And then additionally, there's barely even like a fire pit. There's no fire pit set up in this one. And most of them don't have a fire pit set up at all. There's no hanging lights. There's no additional setup. There's no hot tub, whatever it may be, for these listings that are out in the Waco area, whereas the Live Oak Lake ones had all of those things. And so it was at that point that I realized that the community amenities and the individual cabin amenities is really what was driving the additional revenue for these specific listings. So let's take a look at the Onera community amenities to try to get a better understanding of exactly what they are offering and how we could take these concepts and apply them to the resort that we are going to be looking at. It looks as though they have 2 insert pools. So one over here with steps that allow you to get in, which I'm sure would be really nice to be able to sit there as well with a drink if you wanted to. And then a hot tub dead in the middle of the 2. But on top of that, the way that they did the siding, the railing, and also just the deck in general really fits in with the surrounding area. And on top of all that, they have the sunbathing areas with the umbrellas over top. Now, the one critique that I'll say here is they actually don't have a ton of room for everybody that would want to come here. There are a handful of listings within this area, and I believe we could hold somewhere between like 15 to 20 people at a time. And yet there's only about 6 chairs for people who actually want to lay out and enjoy the pool in the sun. It would be nice if there were more, but I'm assuming that there is a good reason why there are less. With that being said, we can still take some of these ideas and apply it to the resort that we are looking at. Additionally, the exact same thing can be said for the Live Oak Lake Resort. Now, this place I believe would host 10 people at a time. As you can see, we only have 2 sunbathing chairs. And so clearly they're setting these up in a way where people are not going to be able to sit around the pool and enjoy it as they want. And so maybe there's a different way they are setting things up for people to enjoy them. But just as a call out, this seems to be the place where people would want to hang out for an extended period of time and really relax. And they're not really giving them that option. Again, we are just trying to use these as ideas that we can apply for the resort. Now, lastly, this is an individual listing that I want to show you, but it is extraordinarily well done. And what it has is a modular pool with a good sized deck around it and a hot tub off to the side. Here's another image to give you an idea of exactly what it looks like. You can see there's steps that come up here and steps that come up over here. They can get 4 seating over here and 2 over here. Again, not large, but this is an individual listing that only sleeps a handful of people anyway, so it works for this resort. Now, a couple callouts that I absolutely love about this is the see-through area right here, and then there's also a fire pit that is actually right at the end and kind of works in with the entire structure. So I wanted to show you those few examples before I started to break down exactly how I think this should be put together so that you can see what I see when I say the words that I'm about to say, right? Because they want to add in a modular pool, a sauna, a cold plunge, and all these additional things. And I think that they should do that, but what they need is a really strong deck to bring it all together. This is another angle of where that deck and those amenities would get set up. And what I would strongly advise that they do here is set it up in a way where it flows really nicely with the landscape and doesn't feel like you've just plopped down these different amenities. And the deck is really what's going to allow all of this to come together. Now, so I don't know exactly how it needs to be set up. If I'm being completely honest with you, I've never built one of these out. But what I would say is that for one thing, you don't want to block the view too much. So you would want to limit the amount of view that you were blocking. You would also want to make sure that the deck brought all of those amenities together so that it felt like this big holistic amenity rather than a bunch of individual amenities just kind of plopped and placed all over the place. But then if you're building out the deck, you want to make sure that there's an entrance way from likely over here, because a lot of the people, especially with the new cabins that are going to be put in, will be coming from this angle, but people are going to be hanging out along the waterfront here. And so you want to make sure there's an angle from that entrance as well, which will leave you with kind of like this big block wall on the back end, because you're going to have the modular pool that will go up plus the deck that's going to go out. And that could be a great space for a mural with the name of the resort right then and there, which would really amplify and make people realize and feel that they're in that resort. So that's the first thing that I think makes a ton of sense within this general area to really bring those community amenities together and amplify the experience people are going to have here. However, there's more that I think you can do here that you couldn't do with the other areas. And what I'm going to suggest next may sound a little weird, but I genuinely think it makes logical sense. And please let me know in the comments if anything that I have said makes absolutely no sense, or if you think I'm wrong in any way. I am trying to learn, guys. Please debate me. But this idea is that everyone will be hanging out along this water line right here, right? A lot of people will probably want to hang out around here and be able to go in the water. I'm assuming this water is very swimmable. The fact that it kind of comes in like this probably warms it up nicely. And so if we have all of these cabins, 16 more over here and 5 over here, there's gonna be a lot of people who are gonna be staying here. And so they wanna use this waterfront. However, this may be hard to see, but this is one of the best photos I have of it. If we just take a look at the land itself, it is rough and rugged and not very comfortable. If you were to, especially the closer you get to the waterfront, if you were to just throw a towel down there, it's not going to be all that comfortable. And since we're trying to create a resort, what if we take what they've done in Mexico and try to amplify that here? In Mexico, at all the all-inclusive resorts, you're always going to have cabanas and sunbathing chairs that are going to be lined up along the beach just outside of the resort for people to be able to use. And so what if you did all of that along this coastline right here? So just along this, you have all of these spots where people can lay out in the sun, enjoy the water, and enjoy like a beach day just right here. And you don't have to fill the entire thing, but if you just added a couple of cabanas and a bunch of lounging chairs, and you did probably 15 of them all the way across, that would be enough for people to really enjoy and be able to create a little space where they can hang out all day with their family and their kids. That there, I think alone, just that investment would create an amenity and experience that would allow people to hang out at this waterfront for significantly longer in comparison to if they had just laid a blanket down on the ground or popped open a lawn chair. It also makes the resort feel more luxurious and desirable, and make people want to pay a little bit more to stay there because it's providing this additional amenity. And I truly believe the cabana has this desirability to it that a sunbathing chair just doesn't have, and it feels more luxurious and it's more enjoyable. And so putting out a sunbed or a cabana in some sort of way would be way better than just a sunbathing chair, but you want to mix of both. And now lastly, this is an outdoorsy area, and so people are going to want to get out on that water. They're going to want to be able to rent kayaks. But what I would say is that kayaks can actually get pretty boring and they're not all that fun in comparison to something like a pedal boat, right? Where four people can hop in on this. They can all go out there. They're not going to go far, but they're going to have a good time together. And there's other things like pedal bikes that people could use that are a ton of fun as well for people to get out there. That's just different than a kayak or a canoe, which is a more serious thing that you want to do. Whereas things that could be more fun and family focused, I think would actually make a lot more sense for this specific area. Paddle boards as well, that's a given. That's an easy one that you can get out there. And so just to summarize this entire community amenity area and how I would believe it would be best pulled together is if you can create a really large deck here with the modular pool, with the window within the pool, and then the deck leads into the hot tub, which leads into the sauna, which leads into the cold plunge. And there's also space for some people to lay out there if they wanted to. But then you have all of the lounging and cabana and day beds and sunbathing chairs along the front of the water here. And additionally, you have all of the kayaks and paddle boards and pedal bikes and pedal boats for people to be able to rent and enjoy. And if you can do all that and add in hanging lights and maybe even add in a community fire pit area where you can offer s'mores at night and for people to enjoy and come together and those different things. I think if you can do all of that within this general area, along with also making the cabins more modern, adding black to them, adding some outdoor area, making the fire pit more desirable and enticing, and then adding in all the additional units that are going to go into this listing and making those modern and desirable and sexy, and maybe even adding individual hot tubs to some of them to see if you can get a premium from those individual listings. And if you can do all of those things for Neptune's Hideaway, I truly believe that this could become the most desirable resort in the entire Tobermory area. However, before this ends, I just want to say if the photos are not executed properly, if the pricing is not done properly, and if the listing is not done properly, and if the website is not done properly, it does not matter how well you put all this together. If you can't make it look beautiful online for the people who are looking to stay there, it is not going to get the premium that you want it to be able to get. And that will save for another day altogether. If you guys enjoyed this, if you want me to continue doing this, if you want to continue to see this journey, I want you to like and comment and tell me that you want to continue to see this. And I will put the time and effort to making sure that I can actually do more for this resort here. All right, guys, I appreciate you. Until the next one.